Hello everyone and welcome to the Literacy Center Social Studies tutorial. This is Meghna and today we are continuing our talk about the progressive era and this is part 2. In our previous tutorial about the progressive era, we learned that the progressive era was a period in the history of the United States that was dominated by reform ideals from 1890 to 1920. The Progressive Era saw a mixture of political and social change, which sought to reduce inequality, corruption, and introduce reforms to make society fairer. Let's talk about the key elements during that era, and later we will find out some information about the famous people who actually made and reforms our society during this era. So let's talk about the key elements first. Anti-corruption. In the 19th century, corruption was a major problem in American politics with local bosses controlling key positions of patronage and power. Progressives such as Theodore Roosevelt sought to take on corrupt political and voting practices. Another key element was labor market reforms. Progressives sought to reform working conditions. This included health and safety, the right to unionize and higher pay. Another element was antitrust. The Gilded Age saw the development of monopolies which were highly profitable. In the Progressive Era, the government tackled many monopolies through antitrust legislation. Another important element which was a point of focus was women's suffrage. The Progressive Era saw the culmination of efforts to give all women the right to vote. Another important element was limited civil rights. Some progressives sought to improve conditions of black Americans, but the Progressive Age failed to end decades of segregation. Another one is prohibition. Many progressives supported the banning of alcohol prohibition. One of the motivations was that they hoped it would reduce the economic power of salon owners, who often exercised great influence. Well, there are some very important figures who actually changed the way we see the progressive era. And these famous people were Theodore Roosevelt, 1858 to 1919. He was the President of United States from 1901 to 1909. Roosevelt was a leading political figure of the Progressive Era, fighting corruption and the power of monopoly trust. Roosevelt tackled corruption and patronage in the New York Police, U.S. Civil Service, and business. As president, he was active in signing legislations aimed at progressive ideals. He sought a middle road or a square deal for the conflicting demands of capitalists and labor. Another important figure was Woodrow Wilson, 1856 to 1924. He was the United States President from 1913 to 1921. Wilson was a Democrat and leading progressive. Under his presidency, he passed many progressive bills, including a graduated income tax, Federal Reserve Act, antitrust legislation, and federal support for agriculture and the beginning of the welfare state. In international affairs, Wilson was an idealist who sought to create a League of Nations after the end of the First World War. During his presidency, laws on prohibition were passed. There was one more important figure we know about during the Progressive Era, and his name was William Howard Taft, 1857 to 1930. Taft served as president from 1909 to 1913. He was seen as a successor to the reforming Roosevelt. Although he is often considered less distinguished than Roosevelt, Taft did quietly legislate against monopoly trust and advance other progressive causes. After his presidency, he served as Chief Justice and supported the ideal of international peace. So, if you have any questions or if you need any help with the subject or with this tutorial, you can text us or you can email us and we will get back to you. Thank you.